You're listening to the Nichole Banks Podcast, episode 79, Tammy Hutchinson's Friendship Playbook, How to Make Friends and Keep Them. Hi, I'm Nichole Banks, life coach and expert at helping women grow into the best versions of themselves. This podcast is peppered with a variety of women's topics for personal growth and development. If you're looking for ways to get unstuck, this podcast covers it all. Bringing you fresh new ideas. Get ready. Great things are about to happen. Well, good morning, and welcome back, beautiful listeners. Welcome back to another empowering episode of the Nichole Banks Podcast. This is where we dive into topics that matter most to women over 40. I am your host, Nichole Banks. Today, we have a special guest joining us, Tammy Hutchinson, who found her calling, her true calling, let me just put it that way, into mentoring and training and coaching women. She's a certified professional coach and founder of Fix Her Crown Friendship, an online community dedicated to teaching women better after 40, the art of friendship. Tammy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Here's the thing. I feel like I have watched you on Facebook. I am inspired by your post and your engagement. And I love the fact that what we do as women is, I just feel like what we do as women is we have friends or so-called friends. And the reality is the way you coach or the way you present is authentic and genuine. And I feel like that becomes an everlasting connection. So I
Yeah.
wanted to have you on board because I think my audience, there's so many listeners out there today. And of course, you can virtually raise your hand if you're one of them that have gone through, whether it's the empty nesters, they've gone through divorces, they've gone through so many things in their life that they find themselves, or it could have been a shift in career change, they find themselves literally looking around and have no one to connect with or have no one to go out and do an activity with. So I think friendship is such a crucial aspect of our well-being, and yet it's something that many of us struggle with. So when we navigate the complexities of life, right? Because that's what we're doing today, is just every day is a day of living. Could you share a bit about what led you to become a friendship coach or a mentor?
Sure. Well, because reality hit me is really what happened. You mentioned empty nester, change in career. That is exactly what happened to me. So we moved from our community that we lived more than 20 years, raised our three sons. They went off to college, and my husband and I moved to our dream destination. And once we got here, I loved the town. I still love the town, but I had absolutely no friends to hang out with. And I lived that way for 1 year. And I'm like, this is crazy. I'm not happy here, even though I'm living what we call paradise. Um, and so it was New Year's Eve. And that is when I decided, here's my New Year's resolution. I'm going to create friendships in my community. I am going to figure this out. And that is exactly what I did. And so I joined a couple local women's groups. I am a member of my church, but my community is a little older than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some of the older women that go to church, I should say.
Sure.
So that wasn't an outlet for me. So I had to find something different. And so basically, I joined a Facebook group, and this is where it all happened for me. And interesting enough, as I created new friends and created friends, I started researching, and that's why I ended up as a mentor for friendship, because women, once you can get a group of women together, but it doesn't mean we're going to be besties, right?
Right.
So
Right.
what I really teach is, first of all, how to find them, how to connect, how to have great communication, and then how to look for those signs of healthy friendships.
Yeah. So let's dive in, right? Let's just do it. Tell me, how do you find them?
So for me, it really is trying to connect with someone locally, because you can join a Facebook group on the internet, but you never really make friends unless they live near us. We want someone
Right.
to go grab a coffee or have lunch or do something fun with. So it's about connecting with a local community. And also, what are some of our interests? Do you like to play sports? Are you more of a creative? You like to do creative outlets? Maybe it's playing an instrument. So, what is it that you like? And that's where you want to sign up to either take a class or join a group, etc. And I always say, as a last, and it shouldn't be a last resort, but a great resource would be join your local library and join a book club, especially for those introverts, because
Right.
it's harder for introverts to maybe put themselves out there. And if you just join a book club, we're all talking about the book. We all have a common interest already. So
Right.
that might be a little easier for some women.
So just the recap on where to find them. Some women can go to their church, local church. If that's not an avenue for you, then you could look into a local Facebook group. You can look at the library. You could look at and join a book club. My story is simply that when I had moved to Washington, and I just moved from Washington from Oregon, and I moved to Washington, and same thing, realistically speaking, my daughter's in Arizona going to college, and I move up to Washington, and I still have a handful of amazing friends from childhood. We've gone through so many things, so many divorces, so many kids, so many
Yeah.
weddings, so many babies, all the things. And then I found myself doing the same thing, going, it's been quite a while since I've actually gone and just enjoyed a Nordstrom's rack sale or a TJ Maxx
Right,
or a Home Goods with someone that just, is this cute? What do you think of this? Because I
right.
missed that. And so what I did is decided to create join Meetup. I had a girlfriend say, you need to join Meetup. So I joined Meetup, and there was a singles one. I was single at the time. And then there was, these women groups. And I just really never had the time to really spend getting to know the women there because the timing was just off. So
Yeah.
I went out and created my own Meetup group, and it's Why Not Vancouver. And there at the time, I mean, when I left a year ago, there was over 600 women, and we would do all things active, like stand-up paddleboarding, pickleball, just walks in nature, Saturday market, concerts in the park, things like that, and really getting to know women. And it was so much fun. So ladies, listen, my listeners, I want you to understand that Meetup is a beautiful opportunity for you to develop new activities, new hobbies, new things. But anyway, it allowed me to create a profile of activities that I enjoyed. And then it would introduce me to, oh, well, this group's meeting on Friday, or this group's meeting on Wednesday night, things like that. And if you don't find yourself looking at going, oh, I'm going to go, I think one of the hardest things in doing anything is getting out your own front door first,
Yes, I would agree.
right? So listen, for my introverts that are listening, and there's so many of us out there, that the reality is everything we want is on the other side of fear.
Mhm.
Everything we want is on the other side of that front door. So what I would encourage women to do is be open-minded to go, I'm going to try this 3 times. It's kind of like networking, right? Business networking. You go and meet
Absolutely.
1 or 2 people. Maybe you don't exchange any numbers that time. You go to another event. Oh, you see her again. Oh my gosh, we had so much fun. How are you doing? How was the last 2 weeks been? And you strike up conversation. And then before long, you end up doing things. And that's exactly what happened. We grew so big and so much fun that now I have 8 leaders up there rocking it out, making some great connections. So I
That's
also, yeah. So I also feel like there are some things that we do that kind of sabotage our own friendship connections. Can you name a couple of those things that we do personally?
to sabotage, I think we just say to ourselves, I'm better off staying home alone, or I don't really, really need that friendship. I'm okay where I am. I think we talk ourselves out of putting ourselves out there. I
Yeah.
also think that we say, well, I don't know how to do it, so I'm not going to do it. And you mentioned it earlier about stepping out of our comfort zone. We have to make a commitment and stick to it.
Yeah. The results are just amazing, right? If we think of what we want, think of what we want. What do we want out of this adventure of finding and connecting with new friends. We want connection, we want laughter, we want to feel wanted and needed. It's just a human factor, right? And
Right.
sometimes women, especially our age, we've already been down that road of hurt feelings and emotions and things like that. And I feel like it's almost like dating. Like, I know what I will tolerate, and I absolutely know what I won't. So it's
Right.
kind of the same thing with girlfriends, in my opinion, and maybe you can give me your own opinion. But I feel like we should know what our boundaries are going into this friendship, but we should also stay open minded, because I blogged about this. I really feel that a true friend will be mindful of the time it takes to create a connection.
Absolutely. And it doesn't happen overnight. And there's three things that really need to happen
Can't
in
wait to
order
hear.
to grow our friendship. So there's a foundation. This is when we just first meet her, right? She's
Okay.
probably an acquaintance. And so then as we engage in conversation and start getting to know her a little bit, when we walk away, we should say, "Oh, she seemed really nice, very thoughtful, kind, whatever it is you liked about her. You had a positive experience with her. And guess what? We want more." Right.
Right,
So
right.
so that's the second piece. You want positivity in that connection. And then the third piece would be the second, third, fourth time I meet you, I'm expecting to learn more. So I want to see her genuine aspect, maybe some vulnerability. And when we have those three in a triangle, this is when friendship grows.
Love it.
And so we have to, and then we see each other over and over, and those three things happen each time. And so we're building on that foundation. And I teach what I call 5 stages of friendship. I don't know if you've heard me talk
Mhm.
about this, Nichole, but we all start at the foundation, which is those acquaintances. And then we move into the second stage where we're kind of observing and making sure we get that positivity. And now the third stage is someone that I see often and more frequently, and we have each other's phone numbers. We'll call or text, or I would invite her out away from the meetup group, just maybe
Mhm.
she and I, or me, maybe two of us. And so we're getting our friendship really out away from the whole meetup. And so with that, the fourth stage is really where we kind of stand back and say, what are my characteristics that are important to me in a friendship? And is she in alignment with that? And so if honesty, if great communication, willing to speak her truth, what things that are important to us, we want to observe, is she demonstrating that? Is she giving me that? And what we want are healthy friendships, not perfect. And
Right,
just, we got to remember no one's perfect, including
right.
us. But if she does make a mistake, does she own up to it? Does she apologize right away?
Right.
So those are the things that we're looking for in healthy friendships. And when we have all of that, and it does take a little bit of time, as you mentioned, like over 200 hours, that process I just shared with you, the 5 stages, 200 hours before
Wow.
we finally get to best friends.
Wow. I didn't realize that there was a time limit on it.
Yeah, yeah, according to
Yeah.
research, there
Yeah,
sure
and I've
is.
met a lot of people that made great connections. You just making great connections. I have that outgoing personality. I literally could talk to a rock and we would be BFFs by the time we're done. But but that's my personality. Not everybody has my personality. So my question to you is, what are some tips for the introverts, for the quieter ones, for the ones that have a little self-doubt, more so than, okay, I own this room?
So, and depending on her scenario, but I'm going to just use that she has, doesn't have a network of friends right now. And so I would start with people in my life. Like, I find that I met a lady that lives across the street from me. She walked her dog every day at like 5:30ish. And so I went out around 5:30ish to get my mail so I could talk to her. And as we talked and talked, like I made a habit of this because we all are creatures of habit. She went to, walk her dog at the same time. So we got to know each other as I was getting my mail. And eventually I said, I love walking too. Do you mind if I join you?
Oh,
And so
nice.
then we started walking together. So you could do that with someone in your neighborhood, or you go to the park, or whatever, maybe it's a coffee shop. For people that are working, instead of, every Tuesday morning just staying in your office all day, what if you took a couple hours and went to your local coffee shop and sat there? Again, people are creatures of habit. You'll see the same people that will give us opportunity to say hello.
Yeah.
And speaking of hello, it is all about, I teach eyes up, smile on her face, and be willing to say hello, because that gets the conversation started. Some tips that will help us to get out of our, four walls and into our community.
I like the idea of the commitment you had mentioned earlier, staying committed to it. So for the example would be that if you sign up for the event or for the activity, that you follow through, put it on your calendar, put it on a postie on your forehead, put it on something that's going to remind you you've made this commitment.
Absolutely.
Going into this commitment with an open mind, right? And then leaving the event with a positive experience. I think that's really, really key. I also feel like there are women who are not friendly to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're not a friend to themselves. I feel like it's so important to be your best friend first. And that's self-care, and that's putting yourself as a priority, whether it's healthy eating or activity, something along those lines. Because I feel like I always coach the four well-beings. So it's
Yeah.
the mental well-being, the emotional well-being, the physical well-being, and spiritual well-being, if that suits you. But the reality is that when we don't take care of ourselves, if we're not a friend to ourselves, we really can't be a friend to anyone else. Do you agree?
I do agree. And that's, what I teach. Look for healthy friends. And how do you find them? You really, you just sit back and observe how are they treating others? How are they talking about others? Are they cheering her on behind her back, or tearing her down behind her back? So there is a lot, if someone does make a mistake, does she apologize right away? We talked about that one already, but there
Yeah.
are clues, and you have to not look them over. You say, hey, this is a red flag.
Right. Right.
I see in her.
Yeah. And I think too that there's women out there that have been burnt. They've had
Absolutely.
feelings hurt, they've been crushed, they've been taken advantage of, and sometimes they come up to the relationship gun shy. I think it's like a marriage, in honesty. I feel like sometimes if you are brokenhearted over your last relationship, you need to do the work to heal and then come out of it a healthier person. And again, it's kind of like the boundaries that you're setting for a marriage, or the boundaries that you're setting for yourself and or a friendship, is that the reality is you need to really look at what you want out of this friendship. What do you
Absolutely.
want? What are you willing to give? And does it align with your needs and your wants? I have a client right now that just makes great money in her career. And she forks over so much money for her friends to go and do the things that she wants to go and do. And I say to her, I said, at what point does that become an issue with you? And she says, well, no, it's fine right now. And I'm like, right now, again, at what point does that become an issue for you? She's like, I don't understand what you're saying. I said, let's just put it this way. What happens if you don't make the money you make today? What happens if you were dirt poor? Where are your friends now?
Right.
Right. And she's
Sure.
like, yo, you're so right. The reality is she's got a really good friend. And again, we're looking at that. We're actually going through those stages with her right now in the coaching process. And it's just like, when we grow, right? When we ourselves personally grow, not everybody's going to grow with us, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I always call those kind of friends the high school friends. And don't get me wrong, I have friends from high school that are actually still really good friends. But the reality is that there are some friends from high school that are still acting like they're high schoolers. Like, oh
Sure.
my God, like, you know what I'm saying? I am a prodigy of 80s. So, but it's one of those things, Gen Xers rock. But it's one of those things where you sit there and you go, okay, wait, is this still in alignment with what I'm looking for?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like you said, we all grow at different stages, and sometimes we grow and they stay where they are, and that's through life experiences. So,
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing I was going to ask is what kind of boundaries would you expect someone coming in looking for a new healthy friendship? What kind of boundaries would that person want? What would she want to set?
well, that's a great question, Nichole. I haven't honestly had to deal with those kinds of issues in my business so far. Um, I definitely people when the people do come to me, they say this is what I'm looking for, and what I do is help them achieve that goal. And what happens time and time again, what I've discovered is the person that comes to me becomes the better friend. Like they're like, "Oh, I shouldn't do that," or "I'm looking for that. Oh, I think I do that." So
Yeah.
they discover better ways to treat others, and they just become the better friend. And when we become a better friend, guess what? We attract better friends
I
to
love
us.
that. I love that so much because it really is that, right? It's my friends. If anybody were to look outside looking in, and I've had people do this, it's like, oh my gosh, you're mirror imaging Nichole, or you look just like Jennifer, or you act just like, and it's not the looks. I didn't mean to say looks, but
Yeah.
it is what I'm attracting. I want that good, positive vibe.
Yes.
And I think there's so many listeners that don't have that. They don't
Yes.
have that positivity. They don't have that positive experience. They've been crushed. They've been hurt. They've been all the things. So give me two tips that you would say to that listener that is just dealing with loneliness, dealing with isolation. What could you say to her about how to improve herself first and then to reach out to make connections?
So how to improve yourself first, I think is internal. What do we want to get better at? And then once you discover that, what tools are available that we could get better? So is it a podcast? Is it a book? I've learned so much from reading, reading, listening to podcasts. Now I'm a junkie. Now I have to have it, right? So it's
Yeah.
like keep taking them in, you want more. I think that would be my first recommendation. How do you learn best? What do you want to get better at? Do a quick Google search, and there's your answer.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what are you going to recommend for her to get out her front door? I love the idea you'd mentioned commitment. So making the commitment and sticking with that commitment. What else could she do?
Well, and maybe it is call a friend. We all have friends, maybe not locally, but we have someone that we've been friends with for a long time, most likely, and she's your true girlfriend, through thick and thin. But you call her and say, I need help. I'm trying to, get better in my community. Um, Help be my accountability partner. Um, Even when you're in a new community, we have dentists, doctors, hairstylists. We have people that we go to on a regular basis. One of those people or a receptionist of those people might be a connector in town. She's outgoing. She knows everybody. She's always open and friendly. I go to her. Like for me, it's my hairstylist.
Right, of
Okay,
course.
this is an event. I want to go. I don't want to go by myself. I'm looking to make connections. Who do you know? Oh, first of all, would you like to go? Because she would be fun to go with.
Sure.
Um, I remember once she's like, I can't go, but I can hook you up with this girl. I know she'd love to go. So find connectors in your town. And you probably have, like I said, the places you go, there's probably someone out there that you could connect with.
Yeah, I love that. And again, it's activities that I love for. So, for example, I signed up for that Italian speaking community. There's pickleball, there's tennis, there's golf. Here in Arizona, I connected with a gal that actually just started her own teaching golf. She's been playing golf for years and years and years, always been in the corporate world. She took the leap from corporate to her own business, and her business is thriving. I literally
Good.
joined when she had 8 people. And
Oh,
now
wow.
she literally has almost 400 women that have taken lessons, that are going and looking for the next activity. And I've met a couple amazing women that way. I wouldn't call them my best friends, but we've got the engagement happening, or I'm being invited and they're going to be invited here, and things like that. So I love that. Let me shift gears for just a minute. Let's talk about some flags, some red flags, some yellow cautionary flags. And again, because I feel like sometimes what we do is we carry over our bad experience of a friendship, whether it's being burnt or burnt out or being taken advantage of, into new relationships. We're talking about friends. So there are people that have that experience and they think, oh no, I'm healed, I'm good. But what could we look at? So let's name some yellow cautionary flags first, and then we'll get into the red flags like this is not happening. So what could you name as a couple cautionary flags that we would want to kind of just be on the aware of?
So when we are talking to her, does she try to one up your story, or does she
Mm.
really allow us to talk? Right. So is she listening with empathy and encouraging us to continue? What else happened? What happened next? Or is she cutting you off and trying to one up our story? To me, that's a yellow flag. It
That's a
doesn't
good
mean
one.
it's a deal breaker, but it
Right.
it it, it might mean she's got some development to do. Right.
Yeah. And I think
Um,
a yellow flag is not necessarily just what you said. It's not a deal breaker. I feel like it is cautionary, right? Okay, what else?
I would agree. Maybe another one would be reciprocal. So am I the one always calling and inviting her? Um, and it could be maybe I want to be more better friends with her than she's ready. So worth a conversation. It also could be she thinks I'm better at planning fun stuff. So she lets me do it. So again, it's a conversation.
Yeah,
And
I like that one.
so it could be as simple as saying, hey, I feel like I'm always planning. I want you to do some things you enjoy as well. So
Yeah.
why don't you plan the next activity? So it could be just that simple.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
let's go to some red flags.
So red flags for me would be trustworthiness. So
Mm,
that's probably the number one thing I hear from women, that they have to have a friend who's honest and that they can trust and keep their confidence. So if someone has broken your confidence, how are we going to trust them? So to me, that's a red flag. And again, it's how she treats others when they're not around. That to me is, if she gossips about other women when we're not there, most likely she's going to gossip about us as well.
right.
So to me, that's a red flag. I mean, I think that we all have our tolerances, what we will accept and not. And so my advice is, what are you looking for in a friend? Someone that they're in. Acquaintances is very different. Like I always say, stage 3, which is kind of where we're having fun. I'd love to have a big pool, like your meetup group of all those women. That's most of those are stage 3 women.
Mm,
They're in a pool. I could call any one of them when my best friend is busy and say, hey, you want to go have a drink or go have dinner, whatever. But the stage 4 and stage 5 is when we're truly best friend. And I say, in that stage 3 pool, we want to make sure that we're investing our time wisely. Like I don't want to hang out with somebody and spend a lot of time with them if they are not trustworthy. And if I
right,
can't, you know, trust, if they're not honest with me.
right.
So that's the beauty of having that big pool of women. So you can really sit back and observe and confirm, is she right for me?
I love that. I want to mention a couple more red flags because I think, again, it's one of those things where if we're not in the know, we don't know. And I always feel like when we are putting ourselves out there, we're vulnerable. So
Yeah.
we're going to be like, how do I say this? The sponge that says, oh, okay, well, that's what a friendship looks like, or that's what, and the reality is like, because they may not experience a true friend, it's like there are women in our generation that have never experienced true friendship. There are women that have never experienced true love. So I'm going to run down a couple of these. Feel free to
Okay.
chime in. Okay. So, of course, you talked about the reciprocal. So, there's that. One, I think there's a huge one for me is constant negativity. If
Oh,
this gal cannot speak nicely or positive to anything or anyone, she is not going to connect with me, right? And listen,
agree.
we have negativity in our life and things are not always perfect and things are not always the flow, but I'm okay with going with the flow to get out of the bad and the negativity, right? I mean, so constant negativity, I feel drained when I'm dealing with that kind of friend.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. I would say that's a red flag for sure. Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned the betrayal of trust. One-sided conversations. I think you mentioned that as well, right? Are they engaging? Are they asking questions? Are they really trying to get to know you? I think if it's a one-sided conversation, right, then sometimes that's a flag.
Let me interrupt there because
Yeah.
sometimes it's because they don't have the skill set for good communication. So there is a difference. Sometimes it's more of ego. Let me tell you all about me because I don't really care about you. To me, that's the red flag girl. But
Okay.
other times it's the gal that really doesn't quite know how to properly communicate, ask the right question. It should be that ping pong back and forth, right? And maybe
Mhm.
she just doesn't know how to do that yet.
Great.
So
I love that. Thank you for chiming in. How about being that person that continues to manipulate everything that you're about? What about that person?
she's definitely a red flag. And
Yes,
there
ma'am.
are no boundaries that we could set that will help her. She has to help herself before I would ever consider being friends with her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And she's that person that will talk you into doing things that you're uncomfortable with. She is that person that will abuse you emotionally, like manipulate you emotionally, and she's very time consuming. Huge red
Yes.
flag.
And usually, uh, along with that, she is the drama mama. Like there's
Yeah,
always constant drama in her life. And
absolutely.
so I just stay clear of those gals because they're a lot of effort. And you're right, they are energy drainers.
Yes. So I've got a couple of more. How about the constant competition friend?
She's a red flag. I did. Yeah, that's draining and
Yeah,
tiring. And you eventually don't want to be around her.
for sure. Dismissive of our personal boundaries.
Yes.
Red
I
flag.
I would guess that the characteristics you've already mentioned would play right into this one. She's going to
Yep,
have that issue as well.
for
Mhm.
sure. I've had a friend that I no longer have a friend, but she was inconsistent. Like, here's the examples. And I don't talk politics, I don't talk religion on this podcast, but this acquaintance that became my friend was consistently inconsistent.
Yeah.
Okay, so one minute we're in a group of women and we're having a conversation, and she goes to this belief, and then the next time I see her, we're in another group of friends and she goes to this belief. She's just wishy-washy, very inconsistent. We make a date to go do something. She bails without notice or with short notice. I can't tell you how many times I actually walked up to her front door because we had made plans. She wasn't even there
Oh man.
without even letting me know. And I'm like, okay, that's a cautionary flag, right? It's not a deal breaker, it's a cautionary flag. And then the next time she goes, oh, I'm at the emergency room. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not even counting that one because she really was at
Right.
the emergency room. She broke her
Okay.
ankle. And then the third time it's just like, okay, this is a red flag. Either I need to open up my communication skills and talk to her about it. And which we did. And yeah, we're no longer friends because it didn't spiral into anything. It's just like, you know what, this isn't going to work for me because you're not putting in the effort and you're extremely inconsistent. I think rude behavior is a red
Is
flag.
yeah, absolutely. And all of those to me were definitely red flags. And you're right. I'm glad that you gave her three chances. And that's my rule. Three strikes, you're out because
Yeah,
sometimes there are extending circumstances that we need to give them a break. But by the
yeah,
third time, if you're still having those issues, yeah,
yeah.
that's a deal breaker for me too.
I
Yeah,
think what's really important too is how do you feel after spending time with this person?
absolutely.
I think it's so important for us to be in touch with that. Do you
Yes.
feel drained? Do you feel exhausted? Do you feel worn out? Do you feel like, what the heck just happened? Because if you're
Ab-
questioning that, right? If
yeah.
you're questioning that, then I want you to take time to really just analyze how it all started, what went down, what took place. Because sometimes it could be the scenario you're in, or the
Absolutely.
situation or the group you're in. And other times it could be, completely different on that one-sided, right?
Totally agree. And that's one of the concepts that I actually teach that we want to spend 90% of our time with three categories of people. VIP, she's
Yeah.
very inspirational.
Yep.
very inspirational person. VTP, very teachable person. Now, this is where she learns from us, and she brings such joy and pleasure in our lives. So we learn and grow from her while she's growing as well. And then the VRP, the very resourceful person. I love this gal in my connection group because she knows the best deals all over town. You mention one thing, the next thing you know, you're getting an email from her with the link on that one thing. I mean, she's very resourceful. I love having that gal in my group. So those are kind of the three categories, if you will, that we'd like to spend our time with. And then 10% or less with that VDP, very draining person, because she's going to be in our life, whether she's a relative or neighbor or one of our friend connections, she's going to be there.
Yeah,
But we
facts.
want to limit our time with her and not keep adding more of those kinds of personalities into our friendship group.
Yeah, and that what the VDP, the one, the 10%, the draining person, right?
Yes.
And again, I love that you mentioned her because she is in our life, right?
Yes.
But when I have, because I have some in my family, but when I have that person, I actually will set my boundary in time with her, right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that would, I'd be like, okay, that sounds fine. It's a family event. I'm going to be there at noon and I will leave at 1. And
Yep.
without a doubt, I stick to my boundary because it's something that I want to cherish my 90%, those people, and then I save my energy for
Absolutely.
those people as opposed to the one that's draining. And there's so
So
many
just
different ways.
being aware of it, Nichole, helps us to achieve that goal, right?
Yes, yes. And I think it's so important that we remember that, okay, this is the time where we set the time boundary. This is the time where we set the money boundary, whatever the case
Yes.
may be. It's your boundary. And a boundary, again, you have to remember what that is. It is you expressing what your needs and wants are to the person that you're being protected from. So the reality is yeah, my VDPs, I set a time boundary on that, like no tomorrow. If you will run down those one more time, the VIP is,
She is a very inspirational person,
we love her, love, love, love her. The VTP is,
very teachable person,
we love her too. We love her too.
too.
The
And then
VRP,
very resourceful person.
yeah. And this gal I met when I first got to Arizona, I met her. Her name is Bethany. And I'm telling you what, this gal has connected me with so many different things, my
Yes,
networking groups, women's groups. I
you
mean, I've
got it.
even had wine with her. I mean, all the things, right? She's very resourceful and we love her. So, and then the VDP is,
Very draining person.
yeah. And then again, so the first three are 90% of your time. And those that are listening, 10% of your time, of course, it's the VDP. I cannot believe that our time is up. But what I wanted to do is just share with me your Facebook group for the ladies.
You can find me at fhc.friends, and that's basically Fix Her Crown Friends.
I have it. I'll put it in the show notes. How
Right.
about that?
Friends. Yeah, put it in.
Thank you so much, Tammy, for sharing your insights and your expertise with us today, because it's been a pleasure. I mean, I've just been wanting to do this for a minute with you, and I'm thrilled and honored that you were able to take the time to share your valuable tips. I'm beyond thrilled. And listen, I'm going to encourage all the listeners that there were a lot of things that went on in this podcast today. Do me a favor, guys, stop and re-listen. So you're listening to it the first time, but the second time, grab that notebook, grab the pen, jot down the ideas. And I think we're going to start with, what do you want out of a friend? Once you know what you want out of a friend and you start seeking it, you have to ask yourself first and foremost, am I that person that I want as a friend? And if the answer is no, don't hesitate to reach out. Google is your best friend, and get the support that you need to fix yourself first, and then be able to be open-minded to allowing other women to come in and be that friend for you. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And of course, I want to say thank you again. It's just been an absolute pleasure talking about an important topic for us all. As women, that we want that connection. And I
Yes.
love the connection I've made with you. Thank you. Thank you. Again, to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Nichole Banks Podcast. Remember, you are worthy of love, connection, and fulfilling friendships. Until next time, take care and stay empowered. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you've gained valuable insights and inspiration to help you elevate your life to the next level. Remember, success is within your reach, and with the right support and guidance, you can achieve your dreams faster than you ever thought possible. If you're ready to take the next step and level up your life, visit my website at www.nicholebanks.com. Don't forget, I spell my name with an H, to learn more about my coaching program. Together, we can unlock your full potential and create the life you truly deserve. Thank you again for listening, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.